Today on American Controversial, the one question that citizens are now asking is New Jersey Governor Chris Christie running for president?
Also, as the unemployment rate among African Americans reaches a height of about 17%, will President Obama step in and do something to help?
Republican presidential candidate Herman Cain is confident that he has a shot of winning the GOP nominee. Does he stand a chance?
And finally, with FEMA now in effect, can the government handle it and how will the communities be affected?
American Controversial starts now.
Welcome, William Paterson University, to American Controversial. First up, Americans are talking about whether New Jersey Governor Chris Christie is going to be running in the next presidential election. Will he or won't he? Brad, what do you think he'll do?
Well, I will tell you this, that I'm happy that he made a decision, but he didn't make a decision. So we'll see in the next couple of weeks what his final decision is on if he's going to go or not. Because if you look at his record for 2 years, yes, he balanced a bunch of New Jersey. But I question on many of his issues regarding the property tax cap, yet cut $820 million from New Jersey education, and some counties are suffering right now. So I at this time, I wonder if his agenda, will it be too open to brass for his potential of being a president? Yeah.
Well, we'll know soon that if he's going to run or not, because the deadline is October 31st.
Exactly.
But I think his speech last night in California showed that the nation is very receptive to him and his messages. I mean, he had an outstanding, you have people asking him, God save the nation, run. And in the last 2 years, he's accomplished everything he's wanted to with 2 left to spare. He's balanced the budget, he's worked through a tough government.
I understand that. Yes, with a Democratic assembly, I do understand, but I have to say, when you raise a 10% tax increase on transportation and 52% of New Jersey transit motors are using the transit every day, and you have to understand when you see many deep cuts in the transportation and many layoffs to balance the budget, and also to yet say he has a fiscal policy. I have to question.
I mean, I think that he balanced the budget and he cut the best thing that he could cut. I mean, everyone uses mass transit.
Exactly.
It makes sense to raise mass transit prices if you're trying to raise money. You can only do so many gimmicks like, oh, cut property taxes or increase property taxes or cut the rich tax or cut the Snooki subsidy.
But in urban areas, will it definitely affect? It has to affect many urban families that are dealing with cuts also with their earned income tax. He also did a number on certain specific fiscal policies that dealt with suffering in tax hikes with specific families. And I have to understand that yes, he came with an agenda, but yet as a fiscal conservative, I believe that he is kind of too raw in the sense of the broader scheme of the country. Well, if you look at demographics such as in the Midwest, such in the very liberal states out west, I feel as if that his agenda and his plan won't be yet accepted.
No Republican's ever going to win California in our lifetime. Exactly. But he got a positive reaction there. I think he will be accepted in the Bible Belt, and overall, he has a 58% approval rating in a blue state.
Yes, he does.
If he can pull that off here, then he's going to win Texas. He's going to win Ohio. He's going to win Pennsylvania. He's going to win states that Obama won last time.
Exactly.
And I think he can beat out Obama. The Republicans need to put forward someone who can win, not someone who is just ideologically pure.
But his tone, is it too kind of mainstream? I know he has a Northeastern kind of mentality, but will it be accepted in a broader scheme? Because, I mean, if you look at his approach, he even cuts off even teachers that have asked him questions, you know.
I mean, he is very brass, but I think boldness and honesty are just general American traits. I think there's something that everyone can relate to, and in a lot of ways, he's America's governor now.
Well, if he actually runs for president, I feel that he's going so well, but yet will his campaign, will it just change because he has never yet been on the bigger scale as something such mainstream as being a presidential nominee. Yet he has yet run as the gubernatorial candidate, and he had successfully won with a plan of freezing the state budget. I would have to say that his position will be the next 4 years. Will it be yet past his time, or will it be he's running at the time which he is yet hot, and yet he is yet notable of possibly defeating Obama?
Well, that's why I think he needs to run now, while he has just 2 years. We know what he's about before too many controversies affect him, but now's the time. America doesn't have time to wait, and he should run.
We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, what is President Obama doing to help the increasing unemployment rate amongst African Americans?
Is your money keeping you up at night? You can sleep a lot easier when it's in bank accounts insured by the FDIC. In more than 75 years, no one has ever lost a penny of insured deposits. That's a lot safer than under your mattress. Visit Edie the Estimator at myfdicinsurance.gov. Then you can sleep well.
For over 75 years, consumers and dental professionals have looked for the American Dental Association's seal of acceptance on products. The ADA seal stands for quality and effectiveness. Manufacturers who apply for the seal must meet certain criteria. They must provide objective data supporting the product's safety, evidence of purity and uniformity in manufacturing practices, and laboratory studies and clinical trials using guidelines set by the ADA to demonstrate effectiveness. All product claims made on packaging and labeling are approved by the ADA, so you can trust them. The seal is awarded for a 5-year period. These products are continually reevaluated to ensure safety and quality. To learn more and find a list of products awarded the ADA seal, visit ada.org. For the ADA Dental Minute, I'm Dr. Maria Lopez Howell.
Welcome back to American Controversial. The unemployment rate amongst African Americans reaches the height of 17%. Many people are wondering what President Obama is going to do and how he plans to help his fellow citizens. Brad, what do you think the president should do at a time like this?
President Obama needs to just do what he has always been doing. He's been campaigning, he's been selling his jobs plan, and I think he's doing a great job. Yes, we have to deal with the reality and the facts. Just this week in the Star Ledger, it was reported in New Jersey 15.1% of African Americans are unemployed in this state. And it's kind of unfortunate, yet for the past, since 1970, black unemployment has always been at high rates. It doubles in other different minorities and other populations. But to understand at this time, 16.7% of African Americans are unemployed. What we have to deal with is just how can we adjust education? How can we get specific policies that will benefit African Americans, not just in urban areas, but in different areas, rural areas, that we can effectively make a positive change, because what we're dealing with is reality.
Okay, it sounds like a very good idea. What do you think, John?
I think you're right. I think Obama is campaigning. I don't think he's doing much else. He's lining himself up to get reelected, and he knows that the black constituency is going to vote for him. It's always voted Democrat. It will continue to vote Democrat. And I think he's not doing enough for anyone, but in particular, he can be doing more to help black Americans and to help all unemployed Americans. Because we're at 9.1% in general. We're at 17% for black African Americans. And he's not doing enough. He's giving speeches. He's giving money to bankrupting companies. And where's the jobs coming from that? Where's the jobs coming from the green energy?
Is he the president of African America, or is he the president of the United States?
He's the president of the United States.
My question is that what fiscal policies that Republicans have yet offered as an amendment that has not specifically focused on poverty in America? We consistently see high number of rates of African Americans that are in poverty, children that are yet in homes that yet are broken. Parents, single parent homes. We're dealing with major situations in the African American community, and it's important that as a whole we get our fiscal policies right to tend towards to help the needs of urban area and very severe youth that are dealing with.
Okay. So what would you guys think about the about enhancing the plan for microeconomics within different states? That way we have smaller companies, smaller positions, and therefore have more jobs available for everyone else.
I want to know what you feel about it, Adriana.
Microeconomics, I think it's a great idea because they are small companies owned by normal people, not exactly corporations, therefore opening more jobs for different positions. And therefore I think it would beneficiate, especially rural, urban areas, my mistake, with work, especially in the Newark area. You had those entire projects down Roseville Avenue shut down. No one knew where to go, so they're practically homeless right now.
Okay, you're dealing with African Americans that are dealing with not the expectancy to graduate high school diploma. Not as much African American males are in college compared to African American women. You're dealing with situations where African Americans are not finding jobs. You're dealing with many factors that deal with African American issues, and we're expecting, and we've been waiting for such a long time, but they're not being done. Yet again, I said economics. We are yet not being tended to specific counties. If you want to deal with New Jersey, where there's high African American population, our public school system is broken, and there are not after school programs that will tend to the needs of many deficient African American students and young people as a whole.
Well, if you see schools from areas that are so overly populated, they get the handed down books from the less populated schools. Those books are 10 years old, and how are they supposed to score good scores on national tests like the Terra Nova? How are we supposed to help the African American community if we're not handing them the material that they need in order to succeed?
John, how do you feel about it?
You don't need money to succeed, though. You need teachers that care, and you need parents to make their kids care. And we've seen it in the Abbott districts, we've seen it in Perth Amboy, Newark, Camden. You spend all this money, 10, 20 years going back, up until Chris Christie came in, if we're talking about New Jersey in general, all this money, and around the nation too, just all this money put in to these districts, and there's no improvement. All we saw was an increase in corruption, and we didn't see test scores go up. We had Bush's plan, No Child Left Behind. That didn't work either. Well, we need teachers that care, and we need parents. It starts with the family. If a kid's going to go home every day, you can buy him an iPod or an iPad for school, but if he doesn't have a parent at home who cares, it's never going to go anywhere.
Yeah, with those school districts, you have a lot of teachers supplying this material for them instead of their parents. And teachers don't exactly have the money. So that's probably why they don't care as much, because they don't get paid enough to support their students, and they don't have enough money left over for them to actually relax and enjoy things. They're always focused on work.
It's a breakdown of the family. We're dealing with the absentees of fathers. Now we're dealing with a touchy subject, but we're dealing with many specific crises, and so we're dealing with dysfunctional situations in families. And many African American boys and girls are going to these schools with not a balanced and healthy breakfast or a nutritious breakfast to withstand the entire day. Some of them are not even getting quality enough sleep. So we're dealing with many different factors. But where does the government step in?
When we come back, we'll take a closer look at potential Republican candidate Herman Cain.
I'm Peter Gallagher. Infantile scoliosis is a potentially fatal condition that is curable if treated under the age of 2. Don't wait. Visit infantilescoliosis.org. When you save a life, you save a world.
80.
30.
50. Every mile brings us closer.
25.
Every mile in a city near you.
75.
Help us stop diabetes.
100.
Join the Tour de Cure.
60.
Register to ride.
36.
Or sponsor a rider.
50.
Call 1-888-DIABETES or visit us online at diabetes.org/tour. How many miles will you ride?
25.
Welcome back to American Controversial. For the past few months, there has been talk about who in the Republican Party is going to be nominated and go up against Barack Obama in 2012 presidential election. One of those candidates is Herman Cain, and he is sure that he is going to win the nomination. Now let's go to our correspondent for more on Herman Cain.
Why is the Republican Party basically poison for so many African Americans?
Because many African Americans have been brainwashed into not being open-minded, not even considering a conservative point of view. I have received some of that same vitriol simply because I am running for the Republican nomination as a conservative. So it's just brainwashing and people not being open-minded, pure and simple.
Adriana, I'm interested on your thoughts about Herman Cain.
I think that he is an interesting person to have as a candidate for a nominee. He has some plans. I'm not necessarily sure that I agree with him, but it could be interesting to watch. He's not personally my choice.
Yeah, well, he's Mr. 999 plan, 9% on individual tax, national sales tax, and a fair tax. And he wants to do his best in convincing that African Americans, if we're going to do it after this clip, is convinced that they're not open-minded and they're not willing to hear his point of view on his social conservative views. But I would tell you this, the fiscal policies, going back to what I said in previous segments, of the Republican agenda has never met, throughout the past 30 years, African-American issues. Yet we still suffer unemployment drastically, doubling other races. But to tell you the truth, Herman Cain does not interest me because of his specific policies. They're reminding of previous presidents that were not effectively helping African Americans.
I think that his 999 plan, it's okay in theory, but considering that we're already taxing more in like a national level, like just in New Jersey, we tax how much? I think it's 10%.
10%, yeah.
Yeah, 10%. So why lower the tax rate? I just don't understand that concept. But the fact that he did state that the minority groups are a bit, I guess, would be ignorant towards the other parties is in a way true, because what are we going to mostly vote for? Democratic. Because why? They've always been on our side.
Exactly.
And he basically, if he's serious about this, he has to open up the minds of everyone, not just calling them ignorant, but showing them, hey, this is a way I can help you, not you guys are ignorant.
It's amazing to me that he would make such a blunt statement and his numbers were going up.
I know.
Now, honestly, he could have convinced. He said he can bring a third of African American votes. But to tell you the truth, he specifically, yes, he is a businessman. He's a job creator. That's the stigma of those who make a certain amount, and yet he knows how to make or to get Americans employed, but working again. But Herman Cain, his prospects of winning is unlikely. Especially with the two that are yet leading in these specific polls, in many different polls, Perry and Romney, they're 6 points ahead of him, and he's coming and he was under 10 points or 10.5%. So Herman Cain, he's trying to make a stride. I think it's a bridge to nowhere with his specific ideals and his target.
Like you said, it was a blunt statement, but it could have possibly been just a publicity stunt. I mean, what will politicians do nowadays for a publicity stunt? So saying something as, I guess, would be so controversial.
Exactly.
Would be just a great way to capture the media's attention.
I mean, he wants to end the death tax. He wants to do all these different cuts. Now, he speaks to a specific party, but African Americans, since 1950s, we have yet voted for, the Republicans. We were the Lincoln Republicans. So understanding that his specific policies that will feel that they will convince African Americans of swaying over just because he's an African American doesn't correlate to votes.
Also, I think that people like him because he doesn't have a background. Many people don't know much about him. So therefore, he's more likely, because he doesn't have a bad reputation. Like you said, he is a businessman, but he's not thinking like a politician. Because a politician isn't going to hurt their chances by saying something so completely outrageous. But businessmen don't really have that problem because they're all about the numbers, they're all about making money, and things like that.
We're dealing with a frustrated people, American people, and they're trying to look for answers. And whoever can come out and sum up or think of something that could possibly be in opposition to the president, regarding to the Republican Party, they'll just accept because you can tell how bad the GOP is looking for someone who can stand out and possibly beat the president on his own policies, but being a fiscal conservative.
Of course, I completely agree with what you're saying. Because look, all the GOP that's hyping up the attention on Chris Christie, which is what we talked about earlier. It's anything that will get the American minds off Barack Obama onto something else. Because no one is exactly 100% content with what Obama has done, but you can't be completely dissatisfied because he has had a lot of problems in his term.
Exactly. And yet he's on a bigger statewide or a national scale. Yet his policies, it may be exciting to those Southerners, but as a whole, they're not going to accept it. African Americans, they're not just in one area of, they're not in just one area of the country. On the next American Controversial, we'll be highlighting Rick Santorum as we highlight the GOP candidates for the next, as we get to know our candidate.
After this commercial break, we will discuss FEMA and how well the government is handling it.
After a car accident, Linda Davis needed CPR. Bill Hamilton needed temporary shelter when a fire destroyed his home. During an operation, Haley Reynolds needed a blood transfusion.
Excuse me, may I go into that room, please?
Next year, revenue growth again will be a focus. Top priority.
Thank you for giving me blood.
Thank you for giving me shelter.
Thank you for saving my life.
Support the Red Cross and change a life, starting with your own.
Finally, tonight, FEMA is now in effect. This is a new disaster aid that is meant to help any community affected and is in need of help. However, there is question as to whether the government is using it responsibly and to their full advantage. John, what do you think about all this, and how will this affect those who need it most?
I think more can be done. I mean, just up here in Paterson alone, we've seen so much flooding, so much destruction, but we haven't seen a rebuilding effort start, and it's been over a month. We still have people who aren't in their homes. The government needs to do more, and they have the money. The House passes the budget today to give them the money. It shouldn't take months to get Americans back in their homes after a disaster. It should take days and weeks. This is the greatest country in the world, and we shouldn't have people on the street because of some rain.
Yes, first of all, we also want to talk about the handling of FEMA and the government. We've been threatened with another shutdown once again, and no puns intended here, but the handling of this situation by the government is disastrous. We've had the clash of the red and blue like always, and then we've had, Ron Paul slamming FEMA because it's FEMA. Let me say this. When a natural disaster hits the United States, we need to take rapid action, especially with New Jersey, which is a very vulnerable state, vulnerable to these massive storms. We have places like Lodi, Wallington, Hackensack, Passaic, Clifton, Paterson, Wayne, Pequannock. These places in New Jersey get swamped. And when Hurricane Irene pounded through, it was just, there were swimming pools, and people were forced out of their homes.
See, the thing is, it's not FEMA itself. It's the people who are in charge of FEMA. And who's in charge of FEMA? The Federal Housing Administration. Now, the thing is, since I know a lot about loans, it's as soon as Irene hit and we had like appraisals done on homes that were being bought, you had to order what was called a natural disaster inspection. And not only did people not want to pay that because an appraisal costs about like $400 to $500. And in addition, they're paying for the natural disaster inspection, and it's another $200 to $300. Now, obviously, you're not going to want to do an ND in towns like Kearney and Lyndhurst because you obviously know that those were completely flooded. So FEMA is putting really, really strict regulations on something that should not be that big of a deal. You know that these places were affected. Why are you asking for all this stuff? You have money in reserve. Why are you not giving it out to the people who need it most? And there's still people who won't be projected to be back in their houses until December.
Well, you have to I mean, the regulations are never good, but there needs to be steps in place to make sure there's not fraud. There should be people going out to check to make sure your home is actually flooded. Because we've seen in New Orleans, a lot of the money went to people who didn't even live there, and people who just bought up property and then used the money to fix it up. So I think there should be regulation, but more could be done. But we need to take steps to make sure that the government money is going where it should be, because we've had too much waste lately in government.
Like you said, but there are maps, there are like charts that FEMA has drawn up. If you were in the disaster area, your house has to be re-inspected. You know that like from this block from block A to block B, it was a complete river. Why are you sending more people just to see, oh, there is a flood in your basement? That's a waste of everyone's time and effort.
But it can vary from block to block. I mean, there are certain parts of Paterson that were destroyed, and then there were areas of right next to the shore that were barely affected. You need to have boots on the ground and eyes on the streets looking at which houses were affected and who should be getting money. And if we don't have that, we might as well just mail everyone a check on that block and be here. Go buy something with this.
Yeah, I do agree with you. It's not just the homes, but businesses, because, you know, it's not just the houses that get destroyed, it is the businesses, the small businesses. Let's not forget that it is estimated here in the state of New Jersey alone, after, you know, it got pounded with Irene and Tropical Storm Lee, about $10 billion, I say, in property and business damages, losses. So we do have to be sure that we do have to go, you know, town by town, which one is the most sabotaged, and the town that gets the most sabotaged gets the money.
Well, they're not really sabotage. The storm's not out to get you, despite what some people
sabotage and already damaged, destroyed.
No, I agree with you. Businesses should be the first priority. I hate to say that, but if you don't have people going to work, they're not going to fix their home. They're not going to want to live in New Jersey. They're going to leave. So again, it may sound cruel, but the money needs to be prioritized. Because we saw this week that FEMA can run out of money. The government is running out of money. And if we do get into another impasse, FEMA needs to be smart, and that's where the regulations come into play, where the money can be used properly until more money is gathered.
The problem I have with FEMA is that if a house has flood insurance, they're going to send them to their flood insurance and then send them back to FEMA, because it doesn't make sense. It's like you're adding an extra step in there. Your flood insurance is not going to cover it because it does not cover natural disasters. Flood insurance is just for rain.
Oh, define natural disaster.
Natural disaster is, by textbook definition, something that is unpredictable. So
I think the storm was quite well predicted. I think that's why we came out of it so well. But I think that's something the government could look into, is trying to cut down on waste. Again, we need to cut down on waste, but I don't think the regulations are bad. I think that they're cutting down on fraud, and we're going to see a lot of fraud. We always see a lot of fraud with any big government program.
All right, unfortunately, time's up here. Well, thanks for tuning to American Controversial today. We hope you enjoyed watching, and we'll see you next time. Remember, it's always controversial in America. Good night.